Is it somebody? You need to be quiet this time. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the 5th episode of ChatLoopBackOff. Hopefully, Luna will let me finish this intro. Today is March 7th, 2024, and spring is in the air. Or apparently, lavender is at some local and chain coffee shops. I think these days coffee shop menus are going to define the seasons, not the weather. And I hope 30 years from now that's not more real than it feels right now. All that said, this program is meant to be a deep dive into the realms of the cloud native landscape. I am your host, Jeffrey Sica, but many of you know me as Jeffy. I'm thrilled to have you here and joining us for today's episode where we're going to focus on Lima or Lima. I am going to pronounce it Lima, and I am sure someone is going to tell me I'm wrong. And that's okay. I think it's kubectl. Anyways, Lima is a sandbox project in the CNCF, for the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and it's focused on virtual machines, primarily running on Mac OS. But as a certain community corsair mentioned on Twitter, it also works too on Windows. Unfortunately, I don't have a Windows box readily usable for today, so I'm just going to use my MacBook. But before we go into it, we've got a few housekeeping items. This live stream is a sibling to a similarly named event that we do at live KubeCons called ChatLoopBackOff. In that one, we pit two community members against each other to accomplish a technical challenge of my choosing. Think like Taskmaster or Iron Chef, really. It's meant to be laid back, at least for the audience, and generally fun. This stream is more of a self-induced version of ChatLoopBackOff, and we are very not creative, so we called it ChatLoopBackOff. So I have not done any in-depth research on this topic. Instead, I want to dive into this topic or project with fresh eyes, and I want to learn as I normally would off stream. In doing so, hopefully, we can walk away, both, me and you, the audience, having learned something new. During the live stream, feel free to drop in your questions into chat. I'll get to as many as possible. We are here to learn together, so if you already know the answer to something or I'm stuck and you kind of have an idea that you want me to follow, please speak up. That said, this is an official live stream of the CNCF, and it is subject to the CNCF Code of Conduct. Please do not add anything to the chat or questions that would violate that code of conduct. Basically, respect, myself, respect fellow participants, and don't be a jerk. This video will be put on our YouTube channel afterwards, so folks that couldn't make it to the live stream can still learn along with us, just, asynchronously. So quickly, let's highlight some news from our corner of the world before we get into it. KubeCon. KubeCon is upon us. KubeCon is in a week and a half. Today's March 7th, and I happen to leave on the 16th. So we'll say like 10 days away. A lot of people are going to be traveling. Because of this, and because a lot of CNCF staff have a crazy run-up to the event, next week will be hosted by a known guest, Jeremy Rickard. He's going to be going over telepresence, so look out for socials on that. In my opinion, he does a better job than me, so I'm going to want to watch it afterwards. Next up, from the sounds of it, and not from the sounds of it, but generally the CNCF and LF training and certification are changing how certifications work in terms of expiration. Let me pull up the article quick. In short, certifications used to only be around for 3 years. Now they are shifting down to 2 years. This is primarily done to align more with how Kubernetes release and support windows work. It doesn't make sense for a Kubernetes certification to be valid longer than the version itself is. Also, looking around the ecosystem, a lot of certifications aren't actually 3-year certifications. They're usually 1 to 2. So we're just kind of aligning back to where everyone else is. But it's really driven by just the way release windows are. Of course, links to all of these news articles will be in the notes afterwards. LinkedIn actually open sourced a project called Open House, which is kind of a data lake manager or a data lake control plane. I'm primarily interested in this because I came from an academic background where we're having to deal with, well, in research computing, you're having to deal with data lakes, massive data warehouses. How do you manage that, and how do you grant access to those to different researchers? This looks like it's taking several Apache projects, kind of mashing them together, adding some icing on top in terms of like usability, and then shipping it out. That sounds really good because a lot of these Apache projects already kind of handle data warehousing and management. Haven't had time to look too much into it, but I wanted to shout it out because I love seeing, big companies open sourcing big projects, and this looks like a really good one. Speaking of projects, though not big companies, Guac is now an OpenSSF incubating project. Guac is a way to both track and manage dependencies and CVEs, kind of. In the background, it's using GraphQL to collect and create a queryable interface for all of these dependencies and vulnerabilities. And they have a separate component that manages to visualize the data in my opinion, a pretty meaningful way. Yeah. OpenSSF is a sister foundation to us, and we've got pretty close ties in terms of contributors. So I always love to see them growing out. All right, news down. Lima up, or is it Lima CTL up? Let's find out. I'm going to move a keyboard, and I'm going to move my laptop, and then we are going to get started. Also, this is going to be weird because the camera's right here, and I'm going to be looking down. So, sorry. Can we swap inputs? Katie. Hey, Katie. Yeah. Thank you. Sorry. All right. Let's make sure that is visible. So as always, I should not be looking over here. I should be looking down. That's going to be weird. As always, every episode I will be writing notes, and then I will put them up into the CLBO GitHub repo, just so everyone is aware. Previous episodes are in here. Jeremy needs to get on his, but other than that, actually, does that look good? That looks good enough, I think, in terms of zooming in. Okay, so what even is Lima? Linux virtual machines, typically on Mac OS for running containerd. So here's all I know, and again, I have no problem kind of showing my ignorance at times. I always heard Lima described as a way to run containers on Mac OS that does not need the kind of, I don't want to say fat stack, but the heavyweightness of Docker desktop. So I'm really coming into this blind, by the way. I have installed Lima, and like that's it. Actually, let me. Cool. So let's also just make sure when I brew installed, it's okay. It's the latest one. We are at v20.1. Okay. So what actually is Lima? Linux machines. Oh, that makes so much sense. So is it Lima? I'm going to have to. So I always thought of, I'm going to have to start calling it Lima now. Now I'm worried. As virtual machines and co-Lima as Docker desktop, but then Lima added all the nice Docker stuff, so you don't even really need co-Lima anymore. Interesting. I had never even heard of colima. Also, Nubuo, is that a Final Fantasy VI avatar? Because I am going to be very, very happy. Anyways, so let me see TL. To run, okay, so to run containers with containerd, we can just do lima nerdctl run. Okay. Love it. Thank you. 6 is my... Ooh. Sorry, this is a bit of a tangent. I'm sorry for those that don't know or care about Final Fantasy. Where's 6? I think 6 is number 3 for me in the series. I have a very specific love for Final Fantasy 4 that was like, I don't know. That one always fell in love with that. So let's see. Lima nerdctl run -- rm hello world. Do I need nerdctl installed as well? Doesn't look like it. Oh. Create default. So this is going to, I assume, create a new instance of a VM on here. Like I said, I have done literally nothing with this. So it still has to download stuff. Sorry. Well, that's downloading. To run containers with Lima using Docker with Kubernetes. Okay, so Lima is a way to run containers against varying backends, one of which could be Docker, one of them could be Kubernetes, and one of them could be containerd. Where's the... I need to learn how to read. So it's launching Linux VMs, in this case on Mac OS, on Windows theoretically. Well, not theoretically. I trust the Corsair. Original goal of Lima was to promote containerd, including nerdctl, to Mac users, but it can be used for non-container applications as well. It helps if I just read. I really am one of those folks that just looks for the code prompts to copy and paste because, oh, look, it actually says do limactl start. Okay. So it has downloaded it. limactl start default. Okay, so in the background, it's spinning up a QEMU image. This makes a whole lot more sense. Suddenly, Luna is being quiet, and there's going to be a loud cat. Interesting. Okay, so there's a GUI for Lima, and then Lima XBAR plugin to start and stop. Okay, yeah. There's CoLima. That's what you're talking about. I guess one other thing I should probably do is I should probably stop Docker Desktop just to lay it all out on the table. Okay. Okay, so just running Lima opens a shell into the QEMU VM that was started. And now if we do this, boom, it's going to run all of this in that QEMU image. Well, this might be a short stream. Oh, but we can run Lima in Docker. I'm curious how that works. Does it create a container and then run things within the container via that image? Well, now I'm going to start Docker back up. Lima stop. Oh, duh. CTL stop. There we go. So now with Docker on, let's see if this does what I think it does. It's using QEMU. It's downloading an Ubuntu. So it's still downloading an image file. So it's still okay. So it's creating another QEMU image, and it looks like it's this is 2 years out of date. I probably should look for something else. I just do Lima Docker. What do I get? Lima itself. Okay, so the idea here is you run open source Docker inside the Linux and oh. Interesting. Okay, so if I kill Docker desktop, okay, it's down. Thank you, Nubuo. This makes so much more sense. Okay, so Lima will pretty much do what Docker desktop is doing in the background. So it is actually doing what I was thinking it was doing. I just didn't get there in a sane way. Okay. So when we're looking at these examples, okay, Lima nerdctl run, it is using containerd within the QEMU image that's now running on my desk or on my laptop. And then likewise, this is simply saying, hey, start Lima or start the Lima VM and make sure that it's using Docker so that you can export and run Docker within the Lima VM. I'm curious. Does this then kind of run K8s within the Lima VM automatically? My assumption is this is going to spin up a QEMU image that has Kubernetes baked in, or it's going to spin up a lightweight image that is then going to set up Kubernetes. I'm curious how it's going to do that. Yep. Okay, so it's installing kubeadm or kubeadm, and then it's probably going to do like a kubeadm init and then expose that cluster. Okay. Dang. I had no idea. Okay, this is sick. The sheer amount of just like out of the box templates that are already on Lima is pretty impressive. Okay, so kubeadm is installed. Now it's waiting for kubeadm to be completed. I assume it's doing that kubeadm init. Kubernetes via kubeadm. Okay. So waiting for kubeadm to be completed. We are at this step, which presumably is wait until there's an admin.conf, which means what's Mia. What a ridiculous cat. I'm waiting for her to just slowly show up, probably this way. So there it is. We're waiting for a kubeadm init to actually finish. This is going to have flannel. Okay. There we go. Sweet. So it's a single node Kubernetes cluster within the VM that tracks. That makes perfect sense. I probably should have expected that because the next line that I was highlighting was, hey, remove the control plane taint. Okay. Oh, did I just miss her walking? Yeah, she got louder for a second and I wasn't looking at the screen here. I was looking down. See, the reason why I'm actually like kind of blown away by Lima right now isn't just, well, I'm blown away by the ease of like trying to figure out how to phrase this. If it's not obvious, I am an impatient person. I try to be patient. I try to be understanding. But when I'm like learning or when I'm hacking on something, I usually want some form of instant gratification to show like, okay, I'm on the right track. What's the next step? I'm on the right track. What's the next step? This is out of the box a very clean experience. But moreover, in the last, I don't know, less than 5 minutes, I can clearly see how I could use Lima to pre-package entire dev environments. And that, like, yes, we can do that with Kubernetes, but then you're trying to target, like, okay, predominantly how many people are using, OS X. All right, well, then we're going to have to maybe use kind. Or Docker desktop with Kubernetes built in, or like all these different things. But then it's also, I don't know how I'm trying to like phrase this. Being able to package all of these things in a single unified environment is pretty dang dope. And the fact that it is extensible enough where you can just be like, we're going to use containerd, or we're going to use Docker. We're going to pre-bake Kubernetes. I think it was from this tab. Sorry for jumping around. Let's use Podman in the background. Let's make sure that it's using a specific distro. Let's make sure, or let's have the environment be RISC-V even. That. Ooh. We might try that in a second. Usernetes, like make sure the environment you're messing around with is usernetes, which is rootless Kubernetes. And so then you can kind of validate and test against all of these different environments in a repeatable way. But again, it's clean enough where it's press button, immediately see something usable. In our ecosystem, that is, I don't want to say it's rare, but it's not as common as I would personally like. I understand why. Dealing with distributed systems increases complexity. But when you can actually, you're all good, dude. When you can actually, again, press button, receive that food pellet, dopamine hit, really, really good. I like that sort of thing. Build kit, you can. Oh, okay. So this just makes sure that you could run build kit locally and then it forward it through. Got it. Is this like their own custom YAML file format? That's another thing I want to dive into. I want to see like the schema and what we could do with that. Cloud images. E6 ARch, x86 ARch. Okay. Where do I want to go from here? This is really, really cool. Okay, so by default, it's spinning up a 4-core, 4 gig VM on here. Where is the default config? Where can I improve that? That's probably, I think I saw it. Yeah, there's a .lima directory now. Whoop. Okay. So it creates a folder for each environment. Makes sense. Is that big enough? That looks big enough for people to read. Cool. So VM type null, OS null. So that'll just default to QEMU, default to Linux, default to the Arch. So that's something I want to mess with eventually. Images. There we go. So let's make it. How much do I even have on here? 16. And CPUs, let's say 8. Let's just double it. Oh, no, wait. I'm sorry. 8 and 8. That would take up all of it. Oh, so it already reflected that this is going to be 8 and 8. But since I changed it, I'm like, I would probably want to recreate it. Ooh, but I'm curious if that actually deleted the folder. I feel like it would have. Do I prefer Calico or Cilium? I can tell you, me personally, my home lab in the other room is running Cilium. I have always been a Cilium fan. A friend of mine and I have been using Cilium since 2017. Well, I should say Bob was the one that was primarily pushing Cilium back then. But even back then, we were working in research computing space, and Bob had these aspirations of a crazy, like 100 gigabit per second firewall that was using eBPF. And the minute that he found out Cilium was starting to use that under the hood, he went and wanted to meet all the people there. What was I doing? All right. Default. Cat. YAML grep. Well, HEIB. What? Oh. Derp. So that did not do what we wanted because I'm dumb. So is there a way to pass? I could look this up in the docs, but again, that's not how I roll. Create, help. Yep. So here's where you can set what I wanted to change in the first place. So once it's created, you can't change the config. That's just storing state. That is probably wrong, but I'm going to roll with that for now. CPUs 8. Memory 8. I'd be curious if there is some config option that would actually, when you're starting one of these little VMs, output any deviation from the default config. So in this case, all I'm really doing is creating the VM with additional memory and CPU. And it would be nice to be like, hey, probably, well, I would say an info message, but all of these are info messages. Hey, these, 2 config items are not different from the default. That's what I'm trying to say. Cool. So there is the expanded VM. CTL delete default. Can I just go right to delete from? Okay, you have to stop it first. Cool. Now, there we go. I am extremely curious about RISC-V or RISC-V. Lima 11 or greater. Got that down. Okay, so how would we use this? Would we just set the arch to be RISC-V? Yep. Thank you, docs. Unsupported arch. Arch RISC-V is experimental. Skip download. Does my home lab have Falco by default? No, it does not. Maybe one episode I will get into everything that runs on my home lab, but it's kind of a hodgepodge because it's a home lab. It's how I learn. I'm not exactly running production stuff on there. I guess the closest production thing would be, well, I run my Unify like router config on there, and that needs to generally stay up. So I guess, yeah. But no, I'm not running Falco. I have run Falco in the past. When Bob and I did a kind of fun thing we did called Honk CTL, we were using Falco a lot for that. But again, not permanently on my home lab. I just laugh when I Google stuff and I find people that I know in the list. Oh, yeah, I'm dumb. Okay, so start template, colon forward slash. There we go. And it's downloading the right image. Boom. What could we do with this? I'm wondering if it would be possible and or like I'm trying to think of like CI use cases. We're given a bunch of hefty boxes, but we need to cross compile things. Would this make sense? Maybe. Waiting for the essential requirement. Yes, SSH is essential. That's doing that. Oh, hey, singularity. That's not something I expected to come across here. If that's the same thing that I think it is, singularity used to be a container image format for academics and research computing. But I shouldn't say was, like, it still exists, but I guess it's been renamed to Aptainer. Oh yeah, that's Singularity. That's the same logo, except it used to be an S. Cool. Again, helps if I read. All right. So I kind of expected this to run slow or slower. Not to say RISC-V is slow, but emulation can be slow. This does not surprise me. Intel on ARM and ARM on Intel. What does that mean? So yeah, slow mode. Sorry, I'm kind of just waiting for that other terminal to complete. Lima can run a VM with foreign architecture just by specifying the arch and YAML. That's QEMU emulating the architecture. Fast mode. Rosetta support. Okay, but that is specific to Intel containers on an ARM VM. Makes sense. Rosetta was only meant to do that. So don't try using Rosetta for what we're doing right now. Okay. Oh, specify the, yep. Heyo. And now we have a RISC-V machine. Does it have anything on here? Nope. But it's Ubuntu. Okay. Let me CTL list. CTL stop RISC-V 64. See the following flowchart to figure out what the best network is for you. I do like this call out. If you're connecting via localhost, don't do anything because that's probably what we were expecting you to do. But people do things that we don't expect you to do. So here's the flowchart for how to handle that. Okay, so the way that you can share files between the QEMU host and, well, the QEMU VM and the host, and it's doing that via SSHFS. That's kind of cool. Don't do a whole lot with large files. Performance will not be good. But that's good. Also, in my opinion, don't do anything that requires like sockets from the host. That would also not be great. That's just the default, right? We can set other things. Okay, yeah. So you can use 9p, you can use VirtIO, WSL2, the Corsair. Didn't even know that. Oh, that's still trying to power down. Huh. Well, this is going to be fun. Okay, so according to this, it has stopped. I was kind of hoping there was just going to be a quick utility to verify, but I'm going to trust Lima that it did shut down. It just didn't emit an event. Yay, auto completion. Factory reset. Oh, factory reset an instance of Lima. Okay. Wow, you can even kind of flag instances so they don't get deleted. This is so well thought out. I could honestly see using Lima for like some home lab things. I mean, I could see using this for more than just home lab things, but like if you have a weird kind of if you wanted to throw something up in a very, very simple sandbox, that would be super helpful. And I think I saw that there was a way to get like VNC access to a Lima VM, right? Yeah. So that would be useful. I love this. I love how you can define the VM in a file that is seemingly clean. Like all of this stuff makes sense just at a glance. I still want to know if there's a kind of like a reference to the config. Is this it? This might actually be it. So default goes to .lima. That's where it stores public private keys. It's doing like all communication between you and the VMs are through SSH. You can set cloud init, disk info, kernel info. This is so clean. Okay, so there it doesn't download the images every time. That is also very good. Oh, come on. Now you're just making this too easy. Oh, that's huge. So you use limactl to launch the host agent. Boom. Lima does all the prep before spinning up the QEMU image. Then it kicks it off to QEMU. Hey, here's the VM I want to do. Boom. Boom. Oh, interesting. So there's a guest agent running on each VM. Ah, and it's just continually trying to sync network information. Shell just goes out to, this should be the VM, right? Guest OS, yep. Within the VM. nerdctl run into the guest OS. This is such a clean diagram. And it's comprehensive too. I may or may not have fallen in love. I'm sorry, I'm not talking or I'm reading because this is, I need to get back into focusing on presenter mode. But even their FAQ is like really, really solid. Like these are all questions that have popped into my head so far. Well, most of them. I just assumed it was SSH there. I knew that Lima worked on ARM, but hey, how does this actually work? Can I run non-Ubuntu things? I made the assumption that I could because I saw there were Podman templates, right? You usually wouldn't run Podman on Ubuntu. Right here, we were talking about this like, geez, it's already kind of late, but we were talking about this in the beginning. Like, okay, so Docker is a target. In that case, I was wrong. Docker was just using it within the VM. QEMU issues. We didn't touch Rosetta, and looking at the clock, I don't think we have time to. I'm using Rancher Desktop. How do I deal with the underlying Lima? All right, let's write up some notes quick. What is Lima? Besides being dope. Lima is a way. Spin up. You go away. I don't even want to say lightweight. QEMU images based on template. We'll say open source templates that the project provide. These templates can have varying architectures, such as RISC-V 64, and tooling, such as Kate's out of the box. I think that is fair to say. Do, 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 do. Create default, limoctl start default. Yes, some of this is from the getting started, but we're going to get into some of the other interesting things that we did. I should also note, this is kind of how myself and a couple other folks will build our demos and our presentations, is we'll just do it live, then go through our bash history and then sort out what did we do, what did we not do. Cool. Okay, so that's just running kind of the getting started and also adding the way to stop that VM. This to me is the super cool one. Also, for those that don't know, there is a utility. I kind of talked about it on the first episode, and I'll refresh it. It's called kubectx. It also has a different similar project called kubeNS. And KNS and KCTX are the short kind of name for it. That's just a way to quickly list and switch Kubernetes contexts and Kubernetes namespaces. So that's going there. Stop Kates. And then where is it? There we go. Yeah, this might seem kind of simple, but really looking at the extensibility of their configs, and QEMU is wicked powerful, as they say. And this puts a much cleaner user experience around trying to spin up and manage QEMU images. And it does it in a way that is like cloud native and container centric. I like this a lot. I might try and mess with this more off stream. I am curious if there's a way to leverage this in some of the foundation's like CI pipelines. Could we offer this in a way that would benefit other projects? I don't know. But I also see that it is like less than a minute till top of the hour, and I need to stop rambling. So thank you all for joining. Hopefully you got something out of this. I know I certainly did. And yeah, if you have any other questions or anything, please feel free to reach out. Episode notes will be posted shortly, and I know this will be on YouTube at some point soon. So thank you. See you all. Well, I won't see you all next week. Next week, again, Jeremy will be hosting. And again, he's going to be going into telepresence. And then hopefully I will see some of you at KubeCon, because you won't see me before then. If you're at KubeCon, come find me, say hi. We're doing the actual Clash Loop thing during the Solution Showcase Cube Crawl. So yeah, thank you, everybody. Have a good, happy Thursday.